want you in the lowest level of your home.
That is going to be an observed tornado, confirmed tornado.
And sure enough, there it is. There's the rotation.
Trees are down, power lines are down, there's debris along streets.
Severe, devastating storms, tearing apart communities and lives in a matter of seconds.
Everybody is living through right now.
That is one ugly hurricane.
There's so many dimensions to the hurricane climate problem.
I'm shocked, complete shock.
Across every region of the country and across every season. Experts say our weather is changing.
It really depends on what we decide to do as a society.
Fire surged through here so fast early this morning.
This is going to be something that is more frequent going into the future.
Over the next hour, we're exploring the weather, the trends.
Are we seeing a forest die?
Everywhere you see a color go from a cooler to a warmer, lots of trees have died.
And the impact on you.
A flash flood emergency is up.
There are houses that are underwater 2 or 3 or 4 feet. It's heartbreaking.
I don't think you can ever be prepared for something like this.
Now, a special presentation, Forecasting Our Future.
We thank you for joining us. I'm Carol Clark.
And I'm Nigel Robertson. We see and feel the impact of weather every day, from the simple things like what to wear to the more critical moments when severe weather hits our communities.
Stronger hurricanes, stubborn wildfires, and what seems like frequent flooding in many places have some asking, is the threat and impact from our weather growing?
That question led us to Forecasting Our Future, an initiative this year at WYFF4 and all of our Hearst television stations across the country. The goal is to take a deeper look at how local weather is impacting us by analyzing facts and data to understand any changing patterns.
One thing scientists largely agree on, the Earth's climate is experiencing changes. This data shows how much global temperatures the past 140 years have been above or below a recognized average. Many scientists say if it feels like your local weather is changing, this may be a primary cause.
We're getting help this hour from our chief meteorologist right here and their teams as we explore weather impact. In all, more than 100 weather experts from the Northeast to the Southwest to the Central U.S. and West Coast working every day to keep us informed and safe.
We begin with a look at the most severe weather from Chief Meteorologist Jay Cardosi at WLKY in Kentucky.
Got a tornado developing right on top of us.
Wow. Just got the confirmation. Landfall is a Cat 4. The wind's 155 miles per hour, and this is devastating.
I've never seen anything like this. There was a large building right where you're looking.
Tornadoes and hurricanes, two of the most violent, most damaging storms we experience. In a matter of minutes, they destroy lives, demolish homes, and scar the landscape. Scenes repeated year after year.
We actually barricade ourselves in the bathroom downstairs. I just remember screaming, and my child screaming too.
In December, a series of tornadoes tore through 4 states in the central U.S., killing 76 people. Kentucky took the brunt of the punch. The outbreak was unusual because tornadoes don't typically strike here on the verge of winter.
It is upsetting. I know what's happening.
4 months earlier, Ida, a strong history-making Category 4 hurricane, unleashed on Louisiana with relentless 150-mile-an-hour winds.
I've never seen nothing like it. There's no comparison, really.
Ida was just one hurricane in a memorable season, says Chief Meteorologist Margaret Orr of WDSU in New Orleans.
21 named storms, 7 became hurricanes, 4 became major hurricanes. Hurricane season 2021 was an active season, 3rd most active in history.
The hurricane activity has increased dramatically since 1995. We're in this period of above average hurricane activity. Mike Lyons, chief meteorologist at WPBF in Florida, has been forecasting weather more than 30 years, including when Hurricane Andrew tore through South Florida in 1992. one of only 4 Category 5 hurricanes to ever make landfall in the U.S.
Winds of 160 miles per hour, but for the most part, you could describe it as a 20-mile-wide tornado. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. There was very little rain. It was just all wind, and it just produced catastrophic damage.
The strength and frequency of hurricanes are the subject of frequent research. The results of if changes could be happening and why varies. One MIT study last year concluded North Atlantic hurricanes have become more frequent over 150 years and more powerful when they reach land. A study from NOAA found hurricanes have become stronger more recently, but the overall count isn't really changing.
So we have a lot of data, but we have to be careful in the way that we analyze it.
Scientist Tom Knutson studies hurricanes and climate at NOAA's Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory. He says if you take into account all the available global data going back to about 1900, there is not enough strong evidence of overall higher hurricane frequency. If you look at the data for a shorter period of time in the Atlantic, you do see a difference.
Since the 1980s or so, we've had more hurricanes, more major hurricanes. Intensities have gone up. Rapid intensification has been increasing.
Knutson cautions that looking at only a 40-year period with something as complex as hurricanes could be misleading. Plus, hurricanes and weather occurrences are subject to natural variability. But Knutson says rising sea levels and increased warmth and moisture in the atmosphere, all documented in scientific data, may eventually impact hurricanes in some ways.
So we are projecting that going forward through the 21st century, the rainfall rates out of hurricanes we're expecting is going to increase.
That's where the tornado is, moving at 55 miles per hour.
Moisture and warmth are also key ingredients in tornadoes, along with wind shear. Conditions that come together more often in the eastern half of the U.S. than any other place on Earth.
Tornadoes are there because we have a bunch of instability that just builds up in the atmosphere, and we need to get rid of that instability somehow.
Damon Lane, our chief meteorologist at KOCO in Oklahoma, says tornadoes are the destructive result of the atmosphere calming itself.
The rebuilding process is still going on a decade after.
He took us on a tour of Moore, Oklahoma.
Everyone has a story to tell that day.
Where a mile-wide tornado with winds in excess of 200 miles an hour twisted its way through town on May 20th, 2013. 24 people were killed, including 7 children at Plaza Towers Elementary School.
You can never prepare for a big natural disaster that's going to come in, and it's going to affect your life.
It is heartbreaking. My jaw dropped as we drove into town. Seeing that kind of damage has been something that I have not seen, honestly, since 2005 with Hurricane Katrina.
Meteorologist Allison Rogers at our station WLWT in Cincinnati was on the ground reporting from the tornado aftermath in Kentucky 4 months ago. She says data shows there is some variability right now with tornadoes.
We have seen a shift in where these tornadoes are becoming more and more prevalent.
There has been an increase in the number of tornadoes over the Mid-South region, so think Memphis and the surrounding areas, and a decrease over southern Texas, western Texas, up through the western Kansas.
Dr. Harold Brooks, senior research scientist at NOAA's National Severe Storms Laboratory, says while the Mid-South region is seeing a more recent increase in activity, the area has always been prone to tornadoes. But the storm cycle and patterns didn't attract as much attention as the Central Plains, often referred to as Tornado Alley.
Nationally, the total number of tornadoes hasn't changed in the last 70 years. We have no evidence that tornadoes have gotten stronger or weaker. We have seen in the last 40 years has been a large increase in the variability of tornado occurrence. We have fewer days now in the United States per year that have a tornado, but we have more days that have a lot of tornadoes occurring on them.
We got a tornado right here, right there, just to the south of the TV station.
It does look like this is a tornado on the ground. One of our big challenges is actually trying to explain why the variability is increased.
For both tornadoes and hurricanes, experts say technology and time are what will eventually help provide more concrete answers about how the global climate could be affecting our regional and local weather events.
As we go further in time, have another decade or two of data, we should begin to refine our view on some of these issues where we're still sort of scratching our heads.
We're going to be doing some really good work towards trying to provide more information or better information in a way that helps people make better decisions.
Everywhere you look, you can see the strength, the power of this tornado.
For now, the most important thing is to be as prepared as possible for the impact that weather will continue to have no matter where we live.
That was my home, but God's got better things for me. I'm alive. I survived that, and I'm here.
So how can you be prepared for severe weather? Download local weather apps like ours so you can get the warning for your area.
And when you get an alert or you're told to head to a safe place or leave an area, please follow that advice. Severe weather can happen anywhere, anytime.
From searing heat to storms that can pack a punch, meteorologist Ava Marie at WBAL in Baltimore looks at how typical weather is changing and becoming less typical.
The roof of this home has been blown off, half of it falling onto this white truck.
We still get some very, very strong gusts from time to time, like this one.
A flash flood emergency is up still for about another half hour.
The whole downtown area, business area, is underwater.
Damaging floods, powerful thunderstorms, relentless wind, and snow that just keeps piling up. These are the most common ways many of us feel the impact of weather. In the Northeast, blizzards and nor'easters are seasonal staples.
You can't see a thing. Very dangerous to be out here this morning.
In '78, when we had the big blizzard, the car like this was completely buried.
In the mountains of North Carolina, a few inches of snow isn't uncommon, and it's somewhat welcomed.
We haven't gotten a good snow in a couple years, so it's good to see this. I don't normally enjoy snow, but hey, it's good to see at least one good one a year.
It only takes one storm to cause serious problems.
Basically, all of eastern New Mexico was shut down, and there was the first time I've ever seen, I haven't seen it since, the state issued a civil emergency.
KOAT Chief Meteorologist Joe Diaz will never forget what unfolded a couple of days after Christmas 2015 in an area of New Mexico that's home to highly traveled Interstate 40.
60 to 80 mile per hour winds kicked in. We had blizzard warnings in effect. We were warning people that there could be 6 to 10 foot snow drifts, and indeed that did happen.
In Roswell, more than a foot of snow, a new all-time daily record. More snow in one day than the area normally sees during an entire winter. Our weather and our climate is variable. The reality is no region of the country is immune to stretches of abnormally warm, cold, rainy, snowy, or stormy conditions.
I can't say that I've ever seen such localized and specific damage, but also such widespread damage.
Wind is a leading cause of damage from storms, and scientists say there's another dangerous, often underrated element: lightning.
Unlike a storm itself, exactly where lightning will hit is difficult to predict. A group that tracks lightning says there were 194 million strikes in the United States alone last year, and the most are actually typically seen in 2 states, Texas and in Florida.
All of a sudden it started getting windy outside, and there it was. The rain was going in circles.
In southern Pennsylvania, data from weather records indicates the chance of seeing more rain and heavier rain is growing, especially in the spring. WGAL meteorologist Ethan Houston explains.
We are seeing an upward shift in precipitation. From 1981 to 2010, our average spring precipitation was 10.26 inches of rain. Our new normal is now 11.08 inches. That's an increase of just under 8%. In fact, all of our seasons are seeing an increase.
Annual precipitation is also on the rise in western Pennsylvania.
I was like, we had like 15 minutes to get out, and we did. So I'm just lucky that we got out safe.
The greater Pittsburgh area, with all its rivers and aging locks and dams, is experiencing record amounts of flooding.
The flood season was typically between December through the end of April. But we've now seen in the last 5 or 6 years that we've seen flooding in June, we've seen flooding in July.
A lot of these homes, they build up like 3 or 4 steps way back because of the flooding situation here.
And flooding from intense rain, snowmelt, storm surge, and overflowing rivers and streams impacts more people in the U.S. than any other weather event. It's responsible for 90% of disaster-related property damage, according to FEMA, with many communities hit repeatedly, forcing families and business owners to repair and rebuild over and over again.
Unbelievable. And there's nothing you can do, just stand and watch.
You've probably heard this one about flooding before. Turn around, don't drown.
Yeah, if you come across a flooded roadway, do not drive through it. You never know the condition or the stability of what's beneath the water.
Coming up, tornado warnings like never before here in the upstate and western North Carolina. Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice takes a look at our record numbers. Plus,
the fact that it's January and we're having a fire that's more than 1,000 acres, that's an issue and a cause for concern.
Wildfires burning out of control at an unusual time. The shift on the West Coast and the resulting health trouble it can cause no matter where you live. And later.
I'm Jeff Rawson. We have 3 sustainable products that will help you help the environment, including this thing, which is also going to save you some money.
Devastation. That is a word we've had to use all too often after major severe weather outbreaks in the upstate and western North Carolina.
It's becoming more and more common in this area. Chief Meteorologist Chris Justice joins us now with a look at some of the reasons why. Chris?
Yeah, Nigel, Carol, there's been a clear shift in recent years, and that trend has become evident here at home lately. Now, when you think of traditional Tornado Alley, you think of Kansas, Oklahoma, into Texas. Yes, they still get tornadoes, but there's been a clear shift. Since 1986, the amount of tornado days per year has shifted, and that peak now lies over Arkansas, parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, into Kentucky, which puts us closer to that more volatile action. And with this activity, what we've seen is more frequent tornado outbreaks, more intense tornado outbreaks. So tornadoes are stronger, and they're more likely to come in swarms, not just 1 or 2 tornadoes, but several at a time. Now, why is all this happening? Well, it all has to do with the way the jet stream is behaving, and especially the southern jet. It's been more active recently. When you get that to happen, you get what's called significant tornado parameters that are high. A significant tornado parameter, as we as meteorologists call it, STP, it's increased toward the east more than we've really ever seen. You combine the heat, which is coming up from the south, the moisture coming from the Gulf, and wind energy from strong low pressure systems attached to that jet, we get severe weather like we've never seen before. And this damage has come just in the past month alone. An EF2 tornado ripped a 2-mile-long path through parts of Pickens County, taking roofs, siding, and trees with it. In the last few years, the upstate has seen its fair share of tornado warnings. Some of those warnings resulted in paths of destruction, miles long.
The saying is true. It sounded like a freight train.
2 years ago this month, one of the worst outbreaks in upstate history that included an EF3 that ripped right through Seneca in the middle of the night.
All the windows in the sunroom were blown in, and then I heard the tree hit the side of the house there, and then it started raining in the living room.
Almost a year to the day later, another tornado about 1 mile away. And 4 months after that, the largest amount of tornado warnings this area has ever seen in one day. 35 warnings and 5 confirmed touchdowns.
My store, my business, that was my livelihood. It's gone. You know, it's all gone.
And devastating flooding.
My uncle, my great uncle's 87, and he said in his entire life he has never, ever seen the water do what it has done right here as fast as it did.
Incredible. Tornado warnings by count. Whenever you look at this, the numbers really stand out. 2020, we broke the record for the most amount of tornado warnings ever issued, and that was 61, only to be topped in the year 2021, where we had 63 warnings issued for our area. On average, a typical year would bring 19. So far this severe weather season, we've had 16. Now, there is a secondary tornado season for us across the upstate in western North Carolina. That comes in tropical season. More on that coming up in just a few minutes.
Chris, thank you. Coming up, a multi-billion-dollar change to one of South Carolina's most iconic locations.
We have a lot of unanswered questions of what is that solution going to look like?
It's a project that will last years, but could save a city, save a coastline, and even more importantly, it could save lives.
Well, welcome back. As meteorologists, when we look at hurricane season, we look at what's set to be an active hurricane season. We look to see if there's no El Nino. Frankly, when an El Nino is present, it helps us out. It tears storms apart. We look for warm sea surface temperatures and lower pressure, which means stormier activity where storms actually begin and become tropical. That looks to happen this year, and I'll have that forecast for you here in just a few minutes. But with stronger storms on mind, it has cities along the South Carolina coast thinking about making some major changes. That includes a possible $1.1 billion seawall encircling Charleston. As meteorologist Griffin Hardy shows us, while that's pretty expensive, officials think it could save, get this, $30 billion in storm damage in the decades to come.
A detailed report from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, says that on average, sea levels across the United States are expected to rise by 10 to 12 inches by the year 2050. In response to this, the city of Charleston and the Army Corps of Engineers want to expand the current seawall in Charleston to go around the entire peninsula along the Ashley and Cooper rivers.
We are in the initial phase, so the Corps of Engineers has a 4-phase process. We're in the feasibility phase. And the ultimate purpose of this feasibility phase is to determine whether or not there's a federal interest in a storm surge solution on the peninsula. And if so, we're going to outline a project recommendation.
The expanded seawall would address threats from multiple types of flooding, not only from long-term sea level rise, but also from tidal events and storm surge.
Storm surge is often the most deadly and the most impactful type of event. The problem for the public is that these things don't occur very often. They may occur once every 30 years, and so out of sight, out of mind. But if they occur and you're vulnerable to it, they impact things for a decade and cost a lot of money.
One of the concerns from the public is what this seawall would look like surrounding the perimeter of the historic city center.
We are only in the first phase of this. We have a lot of unanswered questions of what is that solution going to look like? For instance, what is the storm surge wall going to look like, around this historic, beautiful city? And all these questions that we have right now will be answered in the detailed design phase if and when Congress authorizes and appropriates funding for us to move into that next phase.
Wow, thank you, Griffin. We'll keep you posted on that. Now, when we look at hurricane season, I mentioned the El Nino factor. It means it's an active southern jet stream. And what happens here is that jet can sometimes tear apart tropical systems before they even get started. That, unfortunately, does not look to be in the cards for this year. And the Colorado State University folks, really at the forefront of tropical research, have released their forecast for the hurricane season. And when we look specifically at the Carolinas, when you look at the chance of at least one named storm impacting our area, the Colorado State University data shows that we have a 76% chance in South Carolina, which is 19% above what they would consider normal. For North Carolina, a 17% chance above normal of seeing at least one named storm impact you. When we talk about at least one hurricane impacting the Carolinas, that too looks to be at above normal chances this year due to the pattern and what we're seeing out of the jet stream. The North Carolina coast would have an 18% above normal chance of a hurricane, and then for the upstate sits at about a 44% chance over the entire year. Now, of course, we will keep you posted any kind of tropical systems that form our way, whether it be on air or on our app or on Facebook.
Chris, thank you. Western wildfires causing health concerns in states across the country.
The trouble they can create hundreds of miles away, plus a deeper look at what seems like an ever-expanding wildfire season. And coming up later.
I was petrified of thunderstorms. I hated thunder because it's so loud.
It actually gave me a true appreciation for the power of Mother Nature.
We have a passion for protecting people, no matter where they live.
Putting the spotlight on some of our meteorologists, how they became so interested in weather and the storms and events that left a lasting impact on them.
Wildfires may be most visible on the West Coast, but each year they're burning in different sizes and severity in every state.
While the overall number of wildfires fluctuates, you can see the number of acres burned across the U.S. has been steadily growing over nearly 4 decades. And the mark these fires leave go far beyond the property in their paths.
Meteorologist Heather Waldman brings us the story from Sacramento.
We begin with breaking news.
You can see that explosion of flames there and smoke just in the past hours.
As a fire continues to burn here where we are along String Canyon Road.
Wildfire season typically occurs between May and October in the western U.S.
It's probably going to be a really ugly situation, but I got my dogs.
Yeah.
I got me.
Yeah.
We're good.
But the season is shifting, and it's expected to get worse. January 21st, 2022. A fire burned near Big Sur, prompting evacuations and closing a section of Highway 1. Crews say this fire, at this time of the year, is a wake-up call.
The fact that it's January and we're talking about Big Sur, an area in Monterey County that's supposed to be the area that gets the most rain during the winter months, and we're having a fire that's more than 1,000 acres, that's an issue and a cause for concern.
Historically, the largest fires have burned during the summer months. But weather is getting warmer and it's getting drier.
This is going to be something that is more frequent going into the future. As far as the what we in the past considered an off-season fire, fires that happened essentially between December and, let's say, March.
Here are the 3 biggest weather factors that affect fire season: heat, drought, and wind. This January wildfire proves that strong wind and low humidity were still able to dry the area out despite all of the rain that we saw in December. Last year, more than 8,500 wildfires burned over 2.5 million acres in the United States. So far this year, fires have burned more than 800,000 acres. That's already above the 10-year average. Western fires can also have devastating consequences to our health, even reaching as far as the East Coast. Last summer, the jet stream carried smoke from California wildfires thousands of miles, lingering over much of the mid-Atlantic.
As wildfires continue to rage in a number of states out west, people on the East Coast, including the greater Baltimore area, are starting to see the effects in the form of smoke in the upper levels of the atmosphere.
Time-lapse video shows the plume blanketing the city, enough to be seen by satellite covering New England, triggering an air quality alert bad enough to create unhealthy conditions.
Environmental health expert Amir Subkota says scientists are racing to understand the impact wildfires can have on human health.
How are we going to adapt to this new set of hazards as a society? And this is where a lot of work is coming in now in terms of trying to develop an early warning system that allows us to anticipate these hazards.
People living thousands of miles from West Coast fires can suffer from fine particles in the eyes, nose, and lungs.
Increases risk of hospitalization for asthma, increases heart attacks, but also increases risk of preterm birth among pregnant women.
Many wildfires in the U.S. are started by people. With climate changes creating more volatile settings for fires and wildfire season becoming longer, it seems almost any fire can grow into a life-changing disaster.
As long as we're safe, that's the priority, and, everything else can be replaced.
2017 was the costliest year on record in the U.S. for property damage from wildfires, about $24 billion.
And the single most expensive fire came a year later in 2018. That's the Camp Fire in California, which racked up more than $10 billion in losses. For many people, their most common interaction with the science of weather comes through the meteorologists on their favorite TV stations.
We want to introduce you to more of our weather experts and find out about the weather events that left a lasting impact on them.
We have Storm Team 8 coverage across Central
Storm Watch 9 weather on.
We got a brand new severe thunderstorm warning now.
Winds up to 120 miles per hour. My inspiration for becoming a meteorologist were 2 storms that happened in 1991 in my hometown. Hurricane Bob, followed by the perfect storm. The coastal flooding just left a lasting impression, and I was amazed by the power of Mother Nature.
Here is that system building in from the south and west. The great blizzard of '78 had a major impact on southern New England and even southern New Hampshire. And I was in elementary school. Imagine that as a kid being out of school for a week due to a snowstorm. What would happen? Well, the next storm would approach, and I'd be curious.
This is a large and extremely dangerous tornado.
Look at how wide this tornado is.
You can see it
Fear.
plainly see it now.
I was petrified of thunderstorms. I hated thunder because it's so loud. Checked out some books, found out it was only a noise, and from then I've been hooked.
Because this looks pretty significant on radar. The biggest event that I've had to cover, and my team has covered, was back on December 15th, 2021. That derecho packed winds of 60 to 90 miles per hour across most of the state, and there were over 60 tornadoes that touched down over the course of the afternoon and evening. That was the most tornadoes Iowa has ever recorded during a single day. I think a lot of people kind of scratching their heads and asking the questions, are we seeing changes? Is our weather becoming more extreme?
Incredible. I remember on St. Patrick's Day of 2019 being in Pacific Junction when the water started coming over the railroad tracks there. A few minutes later, we heard the sirens blaring around town that they were saying, get out, evacuate, the water's coming over. So we got out, seeing the devastation of it. It had tremendous impacts to so many people in so many communities that we're still seeing those impacts today.
One day that I honestly will never forget is the day that we got about a foot of rain in a little over a 12-hour period.
Storm after storm, shower after shower, moving into Benton County.
And that amount of rain in that short amount of time led to extraordinary flash flooding on a scale that at least parts of northwest Arkansas hadn't seen in modern times. We had 2 children who died on this day in the floodwaters. And that in particular, the 2 kids will never probably leave me.
The winds are definitely over hurricane force.
Tornado on the ground! Tornado on the ground!
This was a lady who lived in Oak Grove. She came up to me at a grocery store and said that I saved her life. But she quoted me and said, "You've ignored a tornado warning from me before. Oak Grove, if you are in Oak Grove, this is one you should not ignore." And she said she went to the basement. 45 seconds later, her house was gone. She tells me that because she's still alive, she gets to hang out with her grandkids and that she is still around.
Personal responsibility is a big part of staying safe during severe weather. We're there, we're putting the information out, but you have to have a way to get that information. So whether you have a weather radio, you receive alerts on your phone, you have to have some way to get the weather information and then find a way to act on it.
A lot of moderate to heavy rain just off to our south.
I think the biggest challenge that has actually increased between, say, the year 2000 to the present time is that the demand for hour-by-hour forecasts and for even higher accuracy has only increased.
We all know that weather's the single most important thing for people every day. So when you are there for a community, you make that connection. People can relate to you. And once you make that connection, you'll never lose it.
A lot of lightning now headed towards...
This thing is still on the ground.
You could see all of the effects of that strong cold front.
All meteorologists, we have a passion for protecting people. No matter where they live, that's what we're about. Getting the right information out as quickly as we possibly can. And for me, there is no greater calling than helping people maneuver what can be truly deadly situations.
All of the meteorologists said besides improved technology, one of the biggest changes they've seen is with social media.
They said it's changed the speed at which they can push out and receive information, and it puts them in closer contact with viewers as local weather events unfold. Coming up, well, you've heard of a population census, but what about a census involving trees?
What do these trees tell us about our changing climate? We're taking you inside America's forest census.
Repurposing restaurant oyster shells and unlocking the secrets of weather-resistant crops. See the unique things happening all around us aimed at chipping away at a changing climate.
You're using products right now that hurt the environment, and by the way, they cost you more. We have replacement products like this thing to show you. It's going to save you some money. Next.
If you don't already have it, be sure to download our WYFF mobile app. It's a great way to stay informed of weather in your community.
Get severe weather alerts as they happen from our weather team right on your phone. Right now, the drought situation is growing worse across the country, especially in western states.
That contributes to all sorts of problems, more volatile fire conditions, crop damage for farmers, and land erosion. The U.S. Drought Monitor shows 35 states are currently experiencing moderate drought or worse.
Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert shows us how our forests, a unique laboratory, and technology are all combining to give a forecast of what's to come.
Take a step into the future by going back to the past.
Straight between. Yeah, your center.
Measurement by measurement, from below,
20,
and above, these researchers are on the vanguard of tracking how a changing climate, from intensifying drought to hotter temperatures to more ferocious wildfires, is affecting a crucial part of Earth's ecosystem.
We're going to have to measure low on that.
You're watching the nation's forest census. Just like the once-a-decade census goes door to door, the forest census goes trunk to trunk and bark to bark, measuring a portion of trees on 171,000 plots across the country. And they've been doing it for nearly a century.
We want to get an age, so we're going to try to jump and hit the center, the pith. See how it's glowing, all that sap is in there? There could be a disease or something in there.
The National Investigative Unit went with a forest inventory crew deep into the Cibola National Forest in the northwest corner of New Mexico to watch something rarely seen by the public.
When I look at a forest like this and I see all this green, it's hard to imagine the drought impacting these forests. Is it?
It is. John Shaw leads forest census analysis for part of the western U.S.
Do tree rings help you improve the quality of your forecast?
Absolutely. Trees will tend to show signs of slowing down before we see them die off.
Look at how narrow that ring is.
Could have been a drought year.
It could have been a drought year.
Margaret Evans showed us how to read tree rings inside the world's oldest laboratory of tree ring research at the University of Arizona in Tucson. Evans and her colleague, Kelly Heilman, are using their research for the first time to help the Forest Service predict how a changing climate is affecting our forests. What did you find?
We found up to about a 91% decrease in average tree growth each year.
That sounds dramatic.
Yes, very dramatic. The worst case scenario of what we were forecasting.
Did you feel a punch in your gut when you crunched the data and found that?
This type of work can be a little bit disheartening, but the uplifting thing is that we can use these models that we've developed to identify management strategies that can help us promote resilience in these forests.
We need to do something about it right now. We really are running out of time to get something done.
And that plan and warning for the future.
What happens when it's dry, what happens when it's very dry,
is what John Shaw from the Forest Service is now working on with its Forest Vegetation Simulator.
Literally, you've seen it the first time this is tried.
Using the tree measurements of the past and climate changes in the present to now go decade by decade into a potential version of the future, as seen in this exclusive simulation for this story.
Are we seeing a forest die?
Everywhere you see a color go from a cooler to a warmer, lots of trees have died. We're using the tree rings, tying to the climate models, and then projecting that forward and say, well, we see this change in growth when it's this hot, dry, or this wet and cool.
So the tree ring data is giving you more information so that your projections are more realistic.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the goal.
A goal to track and predict the intensifying climate changes now preying on America's forests. In the Cibola National Forest in New Mexico, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert.
And you can head to our website or app for a special video on how to read tree rings and see the forest census plots where this work is happening in our area.
You'll find it all in the forest Lasting Our Future section. Now, let's talk about one way you and your family can, by extension, have your own impact on the weather and climate of the future.
Chief National Consumer Correspondent Jeff Rosen tells us it's as simple as choosing smarter products that can help the environment.
Swapping a product you use every day for another product doesn't just help the environment, it could also save you big money. So you know me, I'm on the hunt looking for the best eco-friendly products that'll take something off your weekly shopping list and save you some money. Let's go.
First up, dryer sheets. Environmentalists say chemicals used to make them get released from the heat of the dryer. Those chemicals pollute the air we're breathing.
But they're also wasting your money. Let me explain why. So I have a big family. We do a lot of laundry around here. And look, we use these dryer sheets, okay? These dryer sheets like this. You probably do too. But here's the thing. After one use, they're done. Poof, goodbye. You get to use it once. So why not switch to these, right? These are wool dryer balls. Yeah, they're made of wool. You can probably see. It's kind of cool. You throw these in, it increases the airflow and makes your clothes soft without any of the chemicals. Better for the environment and better for your wallet too, because guess what? These wool dryer balls cut down drying time by 20 to 30%. They dry your clothes faster, they absorb the water. And here's the other thing. This 6-pack cost me 18 bucks. Sounds expensive, but you can use these for up to 1,000 loads of laundry. Load it in, forget about it.
Another big pollutant, makeup wipes. Millions of them are tossed into landfills every day, and it takes 100 years for them to break down. My producer Kelly found a better solution. It's called the makeup eraser.
Okay, you're probably like me. I use about 2 of these wipes a day, and these are these ones that you just throw away. It's one and done. But guess what? You can be using this. It's a reusable makeup towel. It cost me about 20 bucks, but guess what? You can use it over 3,600 times and then toss it into the washer and you're done. And it's that easy. Look at that.
Finally, one of the worst pollutants, plastic wrap. We go through 53 million rolls of it a year. That's enough plastic film to shrink wrap the state of Texas.
So here's an alternative. It's something called reusable beeswax food wrap. Yeah, it's made out of beeswax, and it's reusable for up to a year. We bought this for just 28 bucks. It's a pack of 6 of them, 2 cups of sugar right here. Let me put some plastic wrap on this, just to show you it's a side-by-side comparison, okay? Hold it from the top, and you can see that the plastic wrap is holding the sugar inside the cup. But will the beeswax work as well? Moment of truth. Yes, the beeswax works as well, holding the sugar in the cup. It's cheaper for you all year, and it's better for the environment. We're going to put a link to all these products and more money-saving eco products on my website right now, RossenReports.com.
Some great ideas from Jeff to try around your home.
And we found some other unique initiatives aimed at easing the burden on the environment.
It is huge. It covers hundreds of square miles.
And it's entirely underground, what you're not seeing that can help with droughts.
Several states and the federal government are focusing on how to get ahead of the changes with our environment and the fallout from severe weather.
A United Nations climate panel recently said it's, quote, now or never to get a handle on warming and the damaging results. And experts say it needs to be a collective effort.
Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Nelson at WJCL in Georgia shows us how some are pitching in right now.
The simple beauty of the ocean and shoreline attracts people to the communities dotting Maine's coast. But a rising sea and eroding land are a constant and growing threat.
This stuff, when it gets exposed like this, can be really, really unstable.
To reduce erosion, the state is now testing a possible natural solution, a living shoreline built with oyster shells collected from local restaurants, bundled in coconut fiber bags, and anchored with logs.
They're 10 to 12 inches in diameter, so what they're meant to do is to try to break up the currents and also break up ice.
It's one example of the innovative work underway to reduce the devastating impact of severe weather and a change in environment. In Sacramento, California, where a water shortage is often the problem, a different kind of solution, a water bank that's underground.
It is huge. It covers hundreds of square miles.
During wet periods, when surface water is in good supply, water providers will rely on drawing more from lakes and rivers, and excess water can be pumped into the natural ground storage.
It basically is a giant sponge made of soil and sands and gravel in the ground.
During dry periods, providers draw from the water bank to help supply homes and businesses. Changing weather also puts a growing burden on farming, but research underway in Nebraska is aimed at giving farmers the upper hand.
Making the season longer, making possible for growing for more days.
Biochemist Kasia Gavatska is investigating why this perennial grass, a cousin of corn, is resistant to cold snaps. She's discovered some grasses have an early warning mechanism to help them brace for cold temperatures and lower light. If that natural process can be crossbred to other grasses and crops, it could be a game changer.
We can create better crops which are having this insurance policy.
Science and simple ingenuity may be helping us slowly adapt to and prepare for the changing impact of our weather. On a larger scale, scientists say reducing greenhouse gas emissions are necessary. Changes at home in communities across the country can add up. In Louisville, Kentucky, the Lawn Care for Cleaner Air program gives rebates for the purchase of electric-powered lawn care equipment to replace old gas-powered gear, therefore reducing pollutants. At Marquette University in Wisconsin, the police department is helping cut emissions by moving to a hybrid fleet.
These vehicles tend to be used a lot. They're pretty much running 24/7.
Engine runtime with the hybrids, about 70% less than all gas vehicles.
It's our little part that we can do.
In Malden, South Carolina, an education center built entirely by renewable energy sources, but the purpose here is much bigger. This solar-powered center teaches sustainability to the next generation.
Kids are our future. Well, if they don't understand sustainability, you can't affect change.
The future, it seems, is in good hands.
I wanted to be part of the solution.
At only 14 years old, Lillian Hill is making a difference. You'll often find her at the Iowa State House, leading adults and leading the charge to get lawmakers to pass legislation for clean energy. And that will help ensure a brighter tomorrow.
I want my little brothers to be able to get out of high school and still have a future worth fighting for.
And every little bit can make a difference.
Oh, it can. If you want to learn more about any of the initiatives we've mentioned, we've posted story links about each one of them in the Forecasting Our Future section of our website and app. While you're there, take another look at any of the stories you saw in this program. You can also check out our interactive charts detailing trends with global temperatures and expected changes with sea levels, agriculture, and more.
And we have the results of an exclusive survey from our National Investigative Unit about how local communities are responding to severe and changing weather.
And we encourage you to download our free streaming app, Very Local. It's available on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. You can stream our latest weather forecast anytime or catch our latest local newscast.
You'll also find this program on demand, along with incredible original programming for everyone from food lovers to people looking for their next adventure.
We hope this program brought more awareness of how changing trends in weather are impacting local communities all across the country.
You'll see more Forecasting Our Future coverage right here throughout the year. Thank you for joining us.